Please welcome the one and only Jo Malone.
She's built one of the most successful fragrance empires in the world.
Jo Malone.
Jo Malone.
Jo Malone.
The woman responsible for creating some of the world's most loved fragrances.
My name is more famous than my face. I have no qualifications. And yet I was able to build $2 billion brands that my creativity has been part of.
So take us back to your childhood in Bexley Heath.
I never really had a childhood like most people, and I don't regret that. It was grueling. It was absolutely grueling. And I realised the only one that can make your dream happen is you. No one has ever told me in my life who I should be. I'll tell them when I'm going to die. And then, of course, I might have a tear at this bit. My curveball came and I was 38 years old and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And they said, you probably have 9 months to live.
Jo Malone CBE is described as an English scent maverick and the woman responsible for creating some of the world's most loved fragrances. She founded and sold Jo Malone London and later left the brand in 2006. Jo is no longer associated with the Jo Malone London brand or Jo Malone London Products. Now, founder and creative director of Jo Loves, Jo's enduring dedication to the art of fragrance continues to inspire and captivate people worldwide. And her legacy in the industry is marked by her distinctive sense and huge impact she has made as an entrepreneurial pioneer. Jo feels this chapter of her life is proving to be the most creative and exciting. Every day is an adventure full of passion, resilience, and creativity. Please welcome the one and only Jo Malone. So Jo, I normally start Exhibit A by saying, of course I know who you are, but who is Jo Malone? But I don't think there's a person on this planet who hasn't heard your name or had your name in their house.
So Jo Malone is a storyteller. I'm a scent artist. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a survivor. So I think there's many parts of me. And what I love the most is my name is very famous, but I'm not. Yeah. So I'm able to live this incredible life.
Incognito life?
Sometimes, sometimes I'll have somebody, he'll recognise me, especially at the moment, kind of living by the beach and I'm sitting there and I'm smelling papers under the trees in Dubai. And someone will say, my goodness, you're Jo Malone. But my name is more famous than my face. And I think that is a really wonderful privilege to have.
It's a very unique position to be in.
Yeah.
So take us back to your childhood in Bexley Heath. What was life like for little Jo Malone growing up?
I had two very creative parents. My dad was the most brilliant artist, and he would paint. And in our sitting room, there would always be an architect's board up, and he'd be painting and all the brushes and actually, I often watch, the Royal Family. Yeah. That was very similar to us. My dad would be painting.
Well, I can resonate with that being Scouse.
Well, we lived in a 2 up, 2 down on a council estate. Everyone, whenever I say that and I go around the world telling my story, everyone assumes it must have been Downton Abbey.
Country estate.
Yeah, country estate. And it's like, no, it was very much a 2 up, 2 down. And he was also a member of the Magic Circle.
Oh, wow.
And he was also a huge gambler. Okay. My mum worked in the beauty industry. So I had two very creative parents. But from the age of 11, I was the breadwinner in the family. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Because on a Saturday, I would go to the markets and help my dad sell his paintings. So I loved a market.
I used to work in a market.
Did you? What did you used to sell?
So bizarrely, like when I was doing my research, I knew you worked as a florist.
Yes.
I did.
From
like the age of 12 to 14. My mum's friend had a little florist in Kirby Town Centre in Liverpool. And I used to love it. And my hands would be freezing and cut to death. But, I worked my way up to the till after just sweeping the floor and cutting the flowers. And then I worked in a market. I worked in a vintage store. And the lady used to...
Oh, I can see you doing that.
I loved it. And the lady used to get these vintage saris and make the most incredible tops and
beautiful
dresses. And we used to sell them in the market. And I loved it. And, just the atmosphere, the smells, the fresh bread, the cheap Revell shoes. Do you know Revell?
Yeah. I had, for my 14th birthday, I got a Revell clutch bag.
Oh, my God.
So, I do remember Revell. But I think... you know what, marketplaces are wonderful, aren't they? Because you have every type of person and you have under 10 seconds to sell your product until they're, and I used to love the man that used to go, and a set of saucepans and the tea towels and the give me a tenner, give me a tenner. And I'd be out the back because all of the traders knew me. Yeah. So I'd be with my father, and once I'd sold the first painting, I would put the money in my back pocket because I knew that would feed us and the family, because he would squander it or, you know, gamble away. So
and
I would
how
put
old
that,
were you then? Like,
I was 7, 8 at the time,
that's
and then
quite a
10.
Mature.
It was. I look back at my life and I think, when I think of my son at 7, would I have let my son, you know, wander around a marketplace? Absolutely not. But there was something about the way I grew up and the people. I was never in any danger, ever, and accepted. But I would do the markets, and then on a Saturday evening, he would do magic shows. So I was the magician's assistant, the Debbie McGee, and so I knew how.
Did you know the tricks?
Oh, I could chop you in half. Yeah. I could chop you in half that day. I had a pet dove called Suki, and she would appear from a pan of fire, and she loved me, and she would sit on my shoulder. And so I would look after Suki and the rabbits. And then on a Sunday evening, if he had any money in his pocket, he would go gambling, and I would go with him. I was always at my father's side. I loved him. But I was taught to read marked cards in a poker game. And so I would twiddle my plaits or rub my nose or do something to signal to my father what they had in their hands. So it was a very eclectic childhood. And I look back on it now, and I really believe nothing is wasted in our life. We don't ever run away from who you are, where you came from, because it makes us who we are. And actually what I learned there is I learned how to be a storyteller in the market, how to create theatre and circus in magic. Yeah. And I never, ever have gambled, ever in my life. It doesn't interest me, not on horses, nothing. And I saw the destruction that it could bring. And my mum was in the beauty industry, and so I would also sit with her and make face creams. And at the time, no one realised I was dyslexic, severely dyslexic, still am. And so I couldn't follow a formulae, but I could smell. So I knew when the almond oil or the rose oil had burnt, it was too hot, we couldn't add the wax. Cosmetics are all about oil into water or water into oil, and you have to get those temperatures right. And so my nose was like my compass, and it got me through.
That is incredible. What was the first memory of your childhood that has, you know, shaped how you make decisions today?
What a great question. I think it was having to be that adult very early on. And so I never really had a childhood like most people, and I don't regret that. You know, I think I am the way I am today. I'm very... If I have a problem in front of me, I can think of 4 or 5 solutions really quickly. But which is the quickest? Which is the one that's going to get me there fastest? Where do I have to go? I'm a very sort of resilient human being, but I think that childhood and leaving school very early, so I have no qualifications. I never finished school. And yet I was able and am able to build 2 unicorn brands, $2 billion brands that my creativity has been part of. And I
doing
think
something you love.
Well, you know, we're a long time here. You've got to do what you love. You've got to do, and everybody has a jewel. Yeah. Everybody has a jewel inside of them. So it's finding that jewel. And I think being a shopkeeper and a storyteller was my jewel. So
you took care of your mum?
Yes.
Your mum got ill?
Yep.
Talk me through that time.
So I was a carer. And I did that. That's one of the reasons I didn't go back to school. So my sister was 5 years younger than me, and my mum had a terrible breakdown. What I hadn't realised is she'd had 4 of them. So it was part of her genetic kind of makeup.
Was that scary for you as a child, like seeing your mum?
Yes, of course it was, because I was already the adult. Yeah. You know, I was already the one that was pulling things. It wasn't that my mum and dad didn't care or didn't love me. It was what it was. domestic responsibility was not their forte. That's the only reason, I can think of. But I remember coming home from school one day and my mum was rocking herself backwards and forwards in a chair and she didn't speak for 8 months. She just went backwards and forwards.
Oh my God.
And now when I look at it, Abby, I think that poor woman, what she went through. I don't think, what did she take from me? I've never felt that. But my mum, she suffered tremendously. My dad was a womanizer. So she felt, I don't know all the emotions that she felt during that time. But what I did know is that I didn't want to go into care with my sister. And I managed, I don't know how I did it, social workers weren't as active as they are today. Yeah. And we had a couple of people come and knock on the door and I would say, mum's upstairs, the doctor's with her, and nobody checked. And so I just fell through the cracks of an educational system. But if I hadn't fallen through the cracks, we probably would have gone into care and my life would have been very different.
My God.
I don't think I've told that story before, actually.
It's very sad.
Yeah, it's very, very intuitive of you to pull that out.
I can relate to you a lot because you say you felt like you were an adult age 9. My life growing up, my mum and dad split up. My mum had like 2 jobs. She got a degree. She was also in the beauty industry. She was a hairdresser. And then she taught girls and she got a degree and became a teacher. And, when I was 10, I could make a roast dinner. I used to clean the house top to bottom. I used to take my brother at 4 years old on 4 buses to school because we had to move from our house to a different area. We stayed so that was my norm. I'm a mother of 4 now.
Yeah. And look at us.
I know. But my 12, 13-year-old, she doesn't know how to make a cup of tea. And I'm like, I was,
my husband of 61,
same.
Can make a cup of tea, but that's about it.
But when I look back at that, I think, is there any trauma left from that? I think not, because I wasn't unhappy. I didn't feel like it was hardship. It was just the way it was. But,
and that's
crazy.
It is.
I was a baby,
Kind of going back to looking at us as children. And that's the way, I was born in 1963. So we were born, and you were, what was your?
86.
86. So we have, 2-3 decades between us. But I think when we, the kind of background that we grew up in, your neighbours looked after you, didn't they? They, like if, I always remember that if we had a roast chicken or something, we would share it. You wouldn't just keep that roast chicken because it was such a lovely thing. There was a huge sense of community. And we raised our son very much, although he grew up in a very different environment. In fact, he's now a teacher for the state in the state system. He's a mathematics teacher.
But I feel like you carry those values with you to your own family. Because for me now, my kids are growing up in a completely different way to my husband and I. But there's still things that I find difficult, like having a nanny. I don't want a nanny because I had aunties, the neighbour, my aunties, uncles, my nan. They'd pick you up from school. They'd take you to theirs. You'd have cousins round every day. So when I'm like, I have to have help because I've got no family around me to do that. And it just feels so unnatural.
I had a nanny for a while and then I only had one. Yeah. So, we managed to get through that. But I look at him now, he's the most, and often one of the questions I'm asked is, how do you teach your child hunger? And you teach hunger in so many different ways. And it's appreciation. It starts with, I appreciate what I have. I realise that not everybody has that. But I don't want my son to go through those things. I want him to enjoy life, but to appreciate. And he used to fence. He was a fencer.
Oh, wow.
So he learned competition and fighting for every single point in a different way. And I think that's where sport is such a great thing for children, because it teaches them competition, teams.
Drive,
this whole thing about let's not get children to look at life competitively. I'm sorry, I just think
I'm the
that's
worst of that.
Ludicrous.
But I think no one pushed me as a child. No one
but look where you are.
Well,
your instincts and again, nothing's wasted.
No.
And if we look at life like that, like the good things, there's a wonderful expression and quote that Nelson Mandela had when he was in prison, and he said, "I either learn or I win." Yeah, I love that, and it means that tough things will happen. I mean, tough things have happened clearly to the two of us. yet we dusted ourselves off. And I think some of that is your upbringing. I do. That no one's going to, put that dream in front of you. You want it, you've got to go get it.
Yeah.
And it's a baton that goes into your hand and you pick it up. And I love that resilience in me. And I still, a woman now sort of, in the sort of third trilogy of my life, let's be honest, I still have that resilience. I feel like I'm 30 years old.
Do you think it's in your DNA?
Maybe. I don't know. I think when we're born, we are creative beings. And that creativity and that imagination, like a child will take a cardboard box and create a city and a village, won't they, with their imagination. And as we grow older, we tend to sort of not rely on that so much. And that's why dyslexia, dyspraxia, all of these things that people look at and say are disabilities, they're not. They're the ability to think differently. That's all they are. And when you look at that, like if I was to write you a letter or fill out a form, I have to get help. I have to say, can someone help me? Yeah. Now, when I was younger, I was so ashamed of that. I was so embarrassed. Now, I can create fragrance like no one else in the world. So if I need help filling out a form, filling out a form,
who cares?
Who cares? Yeah. Who cares? So
my daughter's just been diagnosed with it because she's spelling and
dyslexia.
Yeah. But she's so, they did the verbal and non-verbal, and one was like incredible off the chart, and the other one was so low. And she's creative, she's super sporty. But
How old?
School, she's 13.
And they've just discovered it?
Yeah, but her school has been incredible. Oh. It's like, let's just pick up all their great points and let's work with them and make it fly. And because there is that shame with it, and there shouldn't be.
Well, there shouldn't be now, that's for sure, because the way her mind will work is like for me, letters run around on the page. Yeah. So I'm working 4 times harder, but my memory is unbelievable. Yeah. I could memorize and I can remember things that happened 20 years ago.
Amazing.
And I'll be able to close my eyes, and smell is always the key that unlocks the door in the memory. So I'll smell the leather shoes, or I'll smell the popcorn maker, and I can literally
put yourself back in that place.
Yep. And I open my eyes and I can see everything. I know what shoes you'd be wearing. So I watch and I look the whole time. And I have something called synesthesia.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to ask.
So these chairs, I can smell. So there's this wonderful note I'm working with at the moment called Akigai wood. And Akigai wood is this incredible note you work with fragrance, and it lingers. So it kind of like, it's like a smoke, and it's trail, and it sort of travels.
Gorgeous.
And I'm smelling Akigai wood. I can smell like a cumin kind of like the wood of a tree, the bark of a tree I can smell. And I can smell a soft, like marshmallow note.
Oh, nice.
And just by seeing the colour.
What do you smell when you see me? And please don't say my tuna panini that I have for breakfast. I was like, Jo Malone, why have I eaten tuna today?
I see let me just have a little think. Eucalyptus, I see a bunch of eucalyptus, and I see you bashing the ends of the eucalyptus for it to drink water. That smell of the fresh, clean air. I can see pomegranate, the red pips of a pomegranate. Eucalyptus, pomegranate. White flowers, like very tiny narcissi, white flowers and huge lilies.
Oh, my God. That's my favourite 2 flowers, tiny and white lilies. I only have white flowers.
There you go.
It feels emotional. Bloody hell.
Casablanca lilies.
Yeah.
But that is what creativity... You see, creativity is... We all have a bank account, okay, of creativity. This is what I believe. This is... Go home and tell your daughter this tonight. No one can access that bank account but you.
Yeah.
But if you use it, you become more and more... So my instincts are like an animal's now. And if you invest in creativity... it will go up in value every single time. And so the reason I'm able to do that is because that instinct I work with every day, and I'm picking up on things, on people's mannerisms. I can see there's a very directness with you as well. I can see a steel, like that. That's the core of the wood I can see. But there's sort of the smell of the sea as well, the smell of the ocean. I can see that as well.
So where did it all begin? Take me back to that time where you Was it true that you had 4 jugs on the table and you started to make?
Still got them.
Still got them?
Yeah, I still got them. I still got those 4 plastic jugs. I was a therapist. I was a facialist. And actually there's part of me that thinks, I wouldn't mind going back to doing something. Because I look after my own face. And after some of the treatments I had for breast cancer, my skin became very irritable and irritated the whole time. And I just thought, I'm just going to look after my own skin again. And I go back and some of my friends are like, can I just have a pot of that cream? Can you make me that pot of cream that, and I kind of enjoy anything to do with beauty, not so good with makeup, but certainly anything, like skincare product. And it started off and I had 50, 60 clients and they grew and grew. I looked after everyone from all the royal family, Princess Diana, I looked after right up until her death, actually. Wonderful Fergie, Duchess of York, she was a huge friend, and all these amazing people from every walk of life. And then I would make a smell and I would massage their arms with it. And that's the point at which my path changed.
So where did you go from there?
Well, I built my first business within 5 years. I had sold it to the biggest beauty conglomerate in the world, the Estee Lauder Corporation, sold the business, went from sleeping on a piece of blue foam from home base to, honestly, Gary, my gorgeous husband, we slept on a piece of blue foam for about 10 years. And that first night that we had a bed, couldn't sleep for about a week. It was too comfy.
Talk about your husband. You work together, he's your business partner. Yeah. You've been together for a million years.
39 years we've been married, yeah.
How is it? Because I work with my husband and I love it. Like, we're best friends. We do everything together. But he hasn't, talk me through your...
So Gary, he's like my best friend, but he's everything. So he's the left brain. He does the business side of things, financial, legal. He makes sure all the nuts and bolts. And then what it does, it frees me to be creative. So I go dream. But honestly, the journey we've traveled together, I think... there's never been a day that I've got up and I've looked and regretted marrying him. Actually, maybe 1 or 2 days. But when you're cross with somebody. But the, majority of it, and at the moment, we're living our best life. And we have this thing in the morning where we pinch ourselves going, is this really our life?
How amazing is that?
I've always felt, I remember in the beginning when we had very little money, we would always have Chinese food on a Friday to celebrate life. And we always felt like kings and queens. Yeah. And I still feel that. And whenever we have Chinese food now, I still go back. I'm still that council estate girl. Like in my fridge, I always have to use up every scrap of food, never waste anything. Yeah. And I think, married to him and, you and Peter must have the same journey.
We're together 20 years.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
How old were you met?
19.
How lovely. Yeah,
4
I was
kids.
18 when I met him.
So going back to building that business, how did step by step, how did you fund it? You're saying you lived on like a blue mattress? Because it must have cost...
I would charge a nice little fee for a facial. I think I was one of the most expensive people at that time. So that's how it was funded. And we just worked and worked. But then we got to a point, which is why we sold, because what often happens with a business is you grow, and if it's very successful, you then don't have enough money to fund its growth, and what happens, it can backfire. And in fact, I've just done a BBC Maestro course, and I talk about this. So it's a course on how to think like an entrepreneur, and one of the lessons is talking about why do you sell a business? What do you sell? When do you need to sell? Should you get a partner first? Do you get a bank loan? All of those kind of questions. So we kind of deal with some of those things. But for us, we were starting to slide backwards because we couldn't fund everything we needed to.
Yeah.
Trademarking your name, licensing, protecting it. All of those things cost money and lawyers. And then what happens is you spend all that money there and then you have nothing left for marketing and PR.
Yeah.
So when Lauder bought the company, I thought I was going to stay forever.
So did you sell all of it to them?
Yeah. Yeah, we had what was called an earn-out deal as well. So you get a lump up front, hence buying the double bed. And
was it double or was it Emperor? Come on.
It was quite a big one. I don't know what an emperor is. It's quite a big one.
Well, that's what we've got, because I've got a 9-foot husband, so we need the biggest bed you can get.
Yeah, so we sold part of it, and then you have what's called an earn-out deal. And so we continued, with that. And all of those things are kind of really important to understand, because you can sell a business, part of it, you can stay with partners. And then, of course, my curveball came, and I was 38 years old, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was 3 years, I think, into it at that point. And everything changed. So
talking about the cancer, how did you find out you had it?
So I had just had Josh. I was 38 years old, and I'd had hyperemesis all the way through my pregnancy. So I was 7 stone. Did you?
Vomited for 9 months.
Oh, it's vile. What did you live on? I lived on Mars bar and Coca-Cola.
I had sponge cake.
It's sugar, yeah.
Cups of tea.
But they think hyperemesis was my trigger. They don't know 100%. Anyway, I remember I was in New York and I was filming, and I just felt this lump just here. It wasn't big, and it wasn't hard, and I had felt no pain or nothing. But I started to get very, very tired, really tired. And I thought it was just being a new mum and being 38 years old.
What kind of tired? Like I need to go to sleep, and you would sleep?
I would sleep, like really deep sleep, and I'd wake up and I'd feel like I hadn't slept, and I would perspire a lot all the time. And so I went home, went to the doctors, and he just took one look at me and he said, "We need it scanned." And I said, "Oh, okay, well, what is it?" He said, "Don't know, let's wait and see. It could be a cyst, it could be anything." So I went to the hospital. I might have a tear at this bit. I went to the hospital, and I could see the nurse's face, and when she was scanning me, and I said, "What is it?" And she said, "I'm just going to get the doctor." And literally within an hour, they could see that it was pretty sinister. So the following day, I had all scans and tests, and they called me back and they said, "You probably have 9 months to live. And we're going to do all we can to try and stop it." And I just couldn't believe that someone...
And how old is your baby at this point? Like
2. And my first thought was Josh and Gary. Poor Gary fell on the floor. And then I went home and I thought, no one has ever told me in my life who I should be. Well, actually, people have said that, but I've never believed them. Yeah. No one is going to tell me when I'm going to die. I'll tell them when I'm going to die. And I found this sort of like warrior rise up in me, like the little 11-year-old girl again. And I fought cancer in the same way that I fought business and dyslexia and everything else. I went to live in New York. I found the most amazing doctor through the incredible Evelyn Lauder, so Leonard Lauder's wife, and she started the Pink Ribbon Breast Campaign. Yeah. Amazing woman. And I remember calling her one evening and saying, "Evelyn, I've got cancer." And she said to me, "Remember, honey, you make lemonade from lemons."
Yeah.
And I went to live in New York under, my doctor was Dr. Larry Norton. Thank you, Larry. I always thank him. And I started a protocol, was one of the first women to take chemo every almost 5 days for nearly a year to 18 months. God. I had a mastectomy, lost all my hair. I just fought and fought and fought. I was in intensive care every 6 days when my white cells, my neutrophils would just drop to the floor. And then one day he walked in and he said, "It's gone today. So you need to go back, claim your life, live your life. We don't know whether it's going to come back." And that first 2 years, actually, if there's anyone listening to this, which there will be, who are going through it, it's day by day. Day by day, you take one step and you claim it as yours, and the next step. And you find something that makes you smile every day. And of course, that was my son. Yeah. But what I had told nobody is it had taken my sense of smell. Didn't tell Gary. I was so ashamed, because it was like, that is the one thing.
Why shame, though? Was it not like devastation?
No, I was so ashamed that I'd got cancer. I was so ashamed I couldn't smell. And that was why I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anybody, not even my doctor. And that was the reason.
Is that out of fear of...
rejection?
Yeah.
Yeah, rejection of the one thing I could do brilliantly, and I couldn't do it anymore. It's gone. So that was why I quit and I left Jo Malone London. And then a month after I left, with a 5-year lockout from an industry I loved, my sense of smell came back overnight. And there I was. And then I was really in a bad way. So I'd survived cancer. My wonderful husband and son were, by my side. I had a whole lot of money in the bank. I could have done anything. I could have lived on a beach. I went for a holiday for 6 weeks, hated it.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do was create fragrance. And I couldn't even walk through a department store because it would make me cry, because I could see I just wanted to create again. That's all I wanted. And actually, if someone had offered me a job, I would have taken it. But nobody knew I was looking for a job.
Yeah.
And so for 5 years, it was grueling. It was absolutely grueling. And I think I changed into a very different person during that time. I really regretted selling. I regretted doing, because I just wanted to be back building. When you have that entrepreneurial heart, it doesn't matter what you do, she beats every single day. And when the 5 years was up, it was like, I've got to try again, because if I don't, I'm going to drive Gary nuts, and I'm going to regret not trying. Even if I fail, I've got to try again. And that's where Jo Loves was born.
How did it feel giving your name away?
You see, I didn't feel that. I sold a business. I sold a business with my name attached.
Yeah.
And the creativity that was on the shelves belonged to them, absolutely. But I didn't sell my life. I didn't sell my future. I didn't sell my dreams. I didn't sell my imagination. I didn't sell my entrepreneurial spirit. And for a long time, I've been able to use my name, Jo Malone. And if you call that name, I turn. I mean, that's my name. That's the name I was born with. And yes, I have a married name, but it's on my passport and with the tax man. And to be perfectly honest, that's where it's used. I don't very rarely use it. Not because I'm not proud, but I don't. But I am now not allowed to use my name. I'm not allowed to pick up one of those bottles or a candle and hold it and say my name. You can call me, and anyone in the room can call me anything they want. I'm not allowed to. And that I have found that the hardest. So for 10 years with Jo Loves, I was allowed to, and now suddenly I'm not. That was the hardest thing, and I've had to come to terms with that this year.
Can you change the goalpost though?
I think the law needs to change. I think that's what needs to change, because entrepreneurs now are building their first business. They're selling it. If their name is attached to it, yes, there are constraints. Yes, there should be. But you can't have a lifelong non-compete. That is not. But the two things don't connect. So there has to be, and actually somebody may be listening to this podcast who is in law, who is in trademarks. And I'm not saying that you breach a trademark, but you have to be able to be the person. So I've had to come to terms this year just being Jo. And as long as I can create fragrance, and even if I can't use Jo, I'll just have to be me. I don't know what I'll do, but I'm never going to stop creating. No. I'm never going to stop building.
So who came up with the name Jo Loves?
Joshy, my son. So we were sitting around the kitchen table having supper, and he was eating spaghetti, and at the time he looked like little Harry Potter, had little glasses on. And I said to my husband, I've got to try again. I just have to. But what were we going to call ourselves? And so we went through all these dreadful names, and no, I hated it. And suddenly this little voice said, I know, call yourself Jo Loves, because fragrance loves you and you love fragrance. And it really resonated out of the mouths of an angel. And we took it to the lawyers, and we said, to their lawyers, and just said, look, this is what we want to do. So we got approval. Which
is bizarre. If you're allowed to use Jo in the name.
Because that was my name, and, that we were able to do that. And, it didn't sort of, it is certainly it's a sticky, it's like wading through treacle with all of this. And you can, they can't take my name, by the way, and put my name on other things without my permission. So it is a two-way street. And you are parents of a child. A business is like a child. And when you sell it to someone, you have to realize that you have a responsibility for the rest of your lives. Because I don't want to see any harm come to that business. No. I'm not there. My creativity doesn't live there. I live in Jo Loves. That's where I reside now. But I don't want to see something I built in my life fail. No, I don't. Or not be successful. You know, there's too many people employed. There's too many other things. And the market is big enough for us both. And I haven't finished giving to this world my creativity.
Starting your new brand in the same sector.
Yeah.
That takes guts. Because you are competing with yourself, your first business, in a way, like...
And everybody else.
And everyone else.
Yes, but I changed. Something was different. Something is different about me. I think...
Is it true that, sorry to interrupt, is it true that when you got your sense of smell back, it was a completely different sense? So you felt like you couldn't replicate, you know, the senses you had before? You were walking new steps, kind of?
I think you look at life. You look at life, and I've been on this earth for 60 years. The woman I was at 20 is not the woman I was at 30 or 40 or 50 or now 60.
Yeah.
Because that is what life is about. You bring your experiences. Could you have seen yourself doing a podcast and doing this 20 years ago?
I came into my wedding to Nicki Minaj. What the hell? I was like, my wedding dessert was a boiled egg. That looked like,
Pardon?
Yeah, it looked like a boiled egg, but inside was like mango and it was like dipped in shortbread.
How wonderful.
No, who the hell was I then?
It's the whole point is we grow, we change. And if you're creative, that creativity needs to grow as well.
Yeah, it's going to evolve.
I didn't want to walk in the same footsteps. I didn't want to recreate what I'd already done. What was the point in that? I'd done it. I proved it. And so starting Jo Loves, it was... I wanted to go like Alice in Wonderland down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So, you know, our tapas bar where you come and you smell fragrance. So it feels like you're about to eat something, but you smell everything. The candle cocktail bar, which feels like you're going to do a shot of something. We take the Bunsen burners, we create candles.
Fabulous.
The paintbrushes. You've come in. This is such a genius product. So all of these things, and I've done 2 world tours this year. We finished a month ago. This was the product around the world that Gen Z, Gen Alpha, the younger generation thought this was the coolest thing. Yeah. We were in Shanghai in China about 3 months ago, was it? 3 months ago. And we hit in 3 days, guess how many people we hit educating about a paintbrush? 14 million young people writing to me and, picturing themselves, painting themselves with fragrance.
That was insane.
Those were the things I wanted to do. I didn't want to go back into what I'd already done. Yeah. And actually, I want to move on from even where I am now.
What was your mission with it then?
I wanted to change the world again. I wanted to change the world with my creativity. I wanted to build a global brand. And I want to see my third business be a unicorn business with my creativity, because I also create for Zara. I don't do all the fragrances, but I do the Jo fragrances for funny enough. They are we've just launched the Intense collection. Have you seen those?
Yep, I'm a huge Zara fan. So.
Well, we must send you some because they're so beautiful. So I do those with them, and I've done that for the last 5 years, and often sometimes we'll run out of one of them, like ebony wood or vetiver with pamplemousse, and we suddenly find thousands of people, 50,000 people on a list waiting for the next batch and the next lot to come in. So I go around the world, and so my creativity has helped that become a unicorn brand, and I'm really proud of what I've achieved.
Say, how does that make you feel?
I love making money, but I'm not in love with money, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Because with money, I can change my life and I can change others.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how much better my life can get. I mean, honestly, I live on a beach. I get up, I watch the blue sky every day. I'm surrounded by the most amazing people. I'm still with the man I love. I'm building an incredible business again. But I have things that I still want to achieve and still want to do.
How important is storytelling within your brand?
I'm a storyteller. That's when someone says, what is your job? I put storyteller or shopkeeper. And they look at me and I go, that's what I do. I'm a shopkeeper and I'm a storyteller. So my dyslexia transforms itself. So when I'm creating a fragrance, something will happen to me, and I can never predict it, by the way. Yeah. It will just happen. Actually, this room, I will definitely create something from the tortoiseshell. I can feel creativity here. From the leather of the chair, and now it would definitely. What about a beautiful, like rouge lily? That would be incredible
amazing.
with some tortoiseshell in it.
What's your favourite
Ingredients?
Favourite ingredients?
I love grapefruit. I love grapefruit. I love vetiver. I love orange blossom. I love kind of things like nature knows the right dose.
Yeah.
I like things that are really, I love woods. I love fig. But then I like colliding it. That's what I'm known for, is taking something very classic and just spinning it in the palm of my hand. And I know this sounds crazy. I hear their voices. I know their characters. Have you ever seen that musical Six?
No.
With Six Wives of Henry VIII?
No, I haven't seen it.
You have to go see it. It's a wonderful musical. And they tell their stories all together on stage. Okay. I could do that with my fragrances. I mean, I know what Mango and Ty Lime, how she would be dressed, what her voice is.
Yeah.
I know the rose petal, a white rose and lemon leaf. They'd be three sisters
what they look like.
from the East End. They'd each have their own story. So they kind of talk to me in the, not in a physical voice, but the ingredients I use within, and I'll always know, and it'll say, I'm missing something. There's something still not there. And there'll be these big holes that I can see in the fragrance. And then my mission is to find...
Fill them?
And to fill them. What is it? What can I smell? So I spend 2 hours every day smelling early in the morning. So when you're back in Dubai and you're staying down by the beach, just wander down and I'll probably be under the trees. I sit under the trees and I have this... I love it when the hawk is there, called Billy. Have you seen Billy?
I've seen him, yeah.
Yeah. So Billy will come and
on the guy's arm.
He sits on my arm. And I love Billy. I love the look of Billy's eyes, and because I love animals. So animals really, really inspire me. The flight. Yeah. So you can see by the amber, lime and bergamot, there's a little bit of the hawk, the fleck of the hawk.
There is.
And how they soar.
What I love about your candles is how they fill the whole house. The fragrance fill it it's like it travels through the room, you know?
It's difficult to do that. Candles and soap.
Yeah, how'd you do it? Or don't you want to tell anyone?
No, I mean, it's not that much of a secret. It always starts with the compound. Yeah. So that's what you have to get right. But when you take a compound into a fragrance with alcohol and water or into a body lotion, you actually have to change the formulation. Yeah. When it goes into candles, and Jodie will tell you this, that you really do have to reconstruct it. So what happens is you often lose all the top notes. So you have to rebuild it, restructuring every single note. And the submissions sometimes for me, like our Christmas tree candle that we sell for Christmas, all gone now. They've all gone. It is the best Christmas tree candle.
Why can you only get them at Christmas? Because I'd like my house to smell like that all year round.
That's a good point. Why do we only sell them at Christmas? That's a really good point.
You shouldn't. You should sell them all year.
But that top note is built in and it's constructed so brilliantly. Yeah. So it has all these bass notes that hold it. Yeah. And it's a bit like an opera, okay, if you look at it like an opera. So the top bit, the first bit is the kind of the voice that's coming. The middle part of the fragrance is its heart. The base of the fragrance are the hands that hold it in place. So you want the voice, the heartbeat, the hands. And that is that takes a long time to perfect it and get it right.
Because I was thinking, you know, that similarity between music and scent. Yep. You know, most songs are made up of the same four chords. And you can tell that story a million times. Are you ever worried that you could run out of a concoction?
Yeah, I am. And that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
Because if I thought to myself, no, I can go on forever. And it's that every time I create a fragrance, it's like, is that the last? Yeah. That's always the feeling it gives me.
Well, no, you just made a new one up with mine. Eau de Abbey.
Eau de Abbey, yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't
I am going to do something with that.
Hopefully it doesn't smell terrible.
And you get the first 12 bottles.
Thank you. For free, I hope.
Free, absolutely.
Thanks. Looking back at your life, what has been your toughest challenge, do you think?
I think my name, actually. The last year has been really tough with that. And you know, you'd think I would have said cancer, but actually, no, my name, the having to recreate myself and look at myself differently. Yeah. But I'm on my way now. I know my mission.
World domination.
I'm going to change the world again. and just as Jo.
Yeah. And reflecting on your journey so far, what's one moment that still gives you goosebumps?
I have to say it's my son, and he graduated this year from Harvard.
Oh my God.
I mean, really, and I stood there and watched the next generation and this incredibly wonderful humanitarian of a man. He's teaching. He came back here to the UK. He's a giver. He's never going to be a shopkeeper. He never wants to be part of the business, but he is now a maths teacher in the state system, giving back. Fantastic. And is loving it. And I watched my son, who is a world changer in a different form. I think I think both of us, and whenever, we arrived this morning and he just ran into my arms. Oh. And I feel so lucky to be his mum. I feel so lucky. My husband's the same, and just knowing that we raised a good human being.
Entrepreneurs don't get better than you. So what advice would you give to any young entrepreneurs out there?
The only one that can make your dream happen is you. Yeah. You've got to do it. You're going to need a whole heap of passion. Yeah. You've got to feel passionate about what you do, passionate in your product, and stay true to who you really are. Yeah. Tough times are going to come. Okay, don't expect it to be. And actually, you don't want to walk in the park because you need to learn. You need a few grazed knees. You need to fall down a couple of times, and you get up, you learn resilience. Yeah. And resilience, that is one of the ingredients this world needs more than anything right now. And respect creativity. Yeah. Invest in it. Invest your time. Surround yourself with people. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Creativity doesn't live only in museums and art galleries. Creativity lives in a coffee shop. Yeah. Creativity lives on a brick wall. Creativity lives in a pair of shoes. Find that nugget every single day and make your 20 minutes a day for 21 days, your brain starts to function differently. The neural pathways in your brain, you start to think about, instead of problem solving, you're finding solutions, visions, and creativity. Your brain starts to function and think in a different fashion. So to be an entrepreneur is probably one of the greatest adventures of life, but it's not predictable. It's not safe. It's not for everybody. Yeah. But when you travel that journey, I just feel so privileged to, and I think there's so many great entrepreneurs out there. I flew Emirates coming back here, which I love. And there's a movie on board called Widow Cliquot. Okay. And it's the story of this incredible woman hundreds of years ago, way before you and I were even born. And she paved the way for others to go. So she was widowed. Her husband died. And it's how she took up the Veuve Clicquot champagne. Oh, she grew the grapes. And today we have Widow Clicquot. You see the Grand Dame. Because of the work of that incredible woman. So read amazing stories of entrepreneurs and learn.
That little girl from Bexley Heath. Yeah. What do you think she would say to you now?
I wrote a letter to my 16-year-old self a couple of years ago. And actually on the course, I read the letter. It's one of the last lessons. And I write to this little girl that didn't believe, if she was sat right in front of me now, looking out the window, thinking to herself, I don't want to grow up in this environment. And I could say to her, just enjoy the moment a little bit. I was always in such a hurry. Yeah. And the bucket of water I threw over my first boss probably wasn't a good idea, but it probably changed her destiny. Just like you're going to marry a man who will change your life. Gary taught me to love and be loved. And I think I'm the mum I am today because of the love that, we share as a family. So, yeah, I'd say all those things. And you'll go on and you'll change the world, girl. You will. Amazing. And it'll be a better place for it.
And finally, what's next?
I'm going to find the 5 senses of Jo. That's what I'm going to do. That was my mission when I went to Dubai, change the world, and I'm going to bring my 5 senses, and you'll see me do some really exciting things next year. And I want to push myself. You know what? Yeah. I haven't got time to sit and wait for the door to knock. I'm going to go and sit at the banquet.
Smash it down. You need to go and smash it down yourself.
I'm going to go and sit at the banquet of opportunity. When I believe in the Middle East right at this moment, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, I mean, the opportunities and the creatives that are moving there, I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
And I want to give that to the next generation.
Well, Jo, I wish you all the luck in the world.
You.
Not that you need it.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jo Malone.